being against AI feels like being against the internet in 1995. We're gonna have to adapt. And that's the reason why I'm trying to stress to my audience, adapt, learn it, because it's not going away.
Welcome back to the AI Download. I'm your host, Shira. Now, this is a very special episode because we are coming to you from the show floor at NAB New York. That's the National Association of Broadcasters. This is where broadcasters of the old traditional guard come together with new media, and we are broadcasting from here. So thank you so much to Puff Media for making this happen. We are in their booth right now. They actually provide shooting and production for TikTok Shop Live. So check them out at puffmedia.co. Thanks to them for making this happen. Now, today I'm joined by someone very special, a superstar creator, Nimay Ndolo. She's a former front-end developer turned creator and activist who's built a massive community online by being real, intentional, and deeply curious about the world around her. She's also collaborated with brands, launched an environmental nonprofit, and used her platform to talk about everything from politics to identity and mental health. And now, like all of us, she's navigating what it means to be human in an AI-driven world and how to also use AI to change the world. But before we get into that, a big thanks to our series sponsor, Hivelighter. You can transform your daily reading that typically takes forever into a more concise experience that's basically like speed learning every day. Go to hivelighter.ai to get smarter today. And now let's get into the show. I'm so happy we're having this conversation. I was so surprised that you started talking about AI. I don't know why, because it's just embedded in everything we're doing as creators and individuals. But when I see your stuff as more of a news creator, an activist, I was like, oh, look at Nimay getting into tech. Oh, and by the way, Nimay, welcome to the AI Download.
Hi, AI Download. I'm Nimay. I mean, so before, starting content, I was a software developer, a front-end developer full-time. I was a contract front-end developer. Yeah. So, kind of tech has always been central to what I'm about. But also, everyone in the world, no matter what vertical you work in, you use the internet. And, looking at just the trajectory of how things seem to be moving, it seems like, the AI is the next, frontier of the internet. So it's kind of impossible to separate yourself from it. So, I mean, I talk about politics, I talk about style, fashion, whatever. But I feel like AI also intersects with that. So
what has been the most interesting thing for you about AI right now?
I guess it's going to sound a little pessimistic. The most exciting thing about AI for me right now is trying to race the possibility of aging out of technology. So how people were born in the 60s or whatever. And then by the time that, they got to the 90s, they were 30 years old. And then the internet came. And then that's how you have a lot of, boomers who don't know how to, navigate some things about the internet. So I feel like around my age is when people start to age out of new technologies. And this is kind of the biggest technological shift we've had since I would say that the three biggest technological shifts we've had since I was born in 1994 would be the internet, the iPhone, and then now AI. So this is the third wave. And now I'm 31. So I feel like I'm in danger of aging out. So
give me a break.
No, I'm being so serious. No, I had a conversation with Microsoft CMO last week.
Yeah.
He gave me, a private demo led by him on Microsoft Copilot. And it was interesting to see. And me being a millennial, I look at, AI coming up. And, working in the environmental side, I look at the water usage issue, which does scare me, about AI, but I don't want to be too pessimistic when looking at it. And I also don't want to be too optimistic. I kind of want to have a balanced approach.
Yeah.
So now I'm kind of more concerned with, learning enough to not age out so that I do know how to use it, because AI is unstoppable at this point. But I also kind of do want to harp on the need for regulation now. But yeah, I don't know.
There's so much that you said here that I want to unpack. One, how do we make sure that we don't age out? Because in 30s to say aging out, I think it's somewhat funny, because I think that there's still a lot of access. But even imagine you're a decade or 2 decades older, what you feel right now. So how do we make sure that access happens, with age? Mm-hmm. And then we can even talk about, depending on what community that you're in and what access you have to education and these tools.
So the reason why I kind of harped on being 31 and aging out right now is because a lot of millennials, in my age group, the mid 90s to, late 90s to 1999, we grew up still having a computer room in the house. And then we went from that to having, these omnipresent, computers in our hands. So we remember how it was before the internet, and we're fine with the internet. That one we're okay with, and we're fine with the ways that it's evolved. And I think that blockchain was the first thing, like, like the whole like Web3 boom.
I was there. I yes, I'm still around there. Second, I was an NFT girl, but that is
again, I wouldn't bash that even yet because my views have changed on that.
Okay.
But I feel like blockchain was the first thing to test, my section of the generation's patience, I would say. And then now AI seems to be like pushing it too far for us. So I'm seeing a bunch of my friends, and also me myself included sometimes, refuse to use like, some certain AI tools. So like, I'll use ChatGPT to like vent to it. I won't use it to like ask it like, like normal questions that I could think through, which I've heard that like, younger generations will just ask it anything. Kind of the way that we would use Google is how they
I kind of do that now.
Holy shit. Okay.
And I'm older than you. But I've always been an early adopter, and because I tend to overthink things, and so I feel like I need that thing to bounce ideas off of.
I think that specifically people who are 25 to 35 right now are dealing with some kind of like internet purism, where like internet is like the farthest we will go, and AI, it's like, okay, like I'll integrate a little bit, but like not too much. And I've been a huge victim of this mindset, a victim of my own making. The other day when I was getting the demo from Yusuf, who was doing like the Copilot demo, he, was using the voice.
Oh, yeah, you voice activate it.
Right.
Yeah, you're talking to it with your voice, and then
it's talking back to you. And that's one thing that I've refused to use, like with ChatGPT, and that's not good. I need to chill with like the internet purism. But again, when I say aging out, that's kind of where I'm coming from. But
do you think though, a lot of it has to do with trust? We have a lack of trust with these tech companies right now, and for good reason, because we saw what happened with the age of social media and privacy concerns and stealing of data concerns too, which is still a huge thing. And obviously, as someone who covers policy and shares that with the world through your content, how do we manage that right now in using these tools?
Again, so that seems to be a problem that needs to be worked on from the top down. The lack of trust, I guess, is coming from like, the lack of regulation. Because again, we're seeing companies like Palantir pop up. And then you see addendums being like written into bills like, the 10-year AI moratorium on legislation. So, we see how far AI has progressed since, it's like big social adoption advent in like 2022 November. And only in 3 years it's come so far, and you all don't want to regulate for 10 years. So like, of course, seeing that this huge tool that's already taking jobs is about to be like, just like let off the reins. I can definitely see why there's like a lack of trust. And I do think that, like regulation could help with wider adoption. Of course, if you give people that legislator or legislatory, if that's a word, confidence, then like, they'll follow.
Clearly, that might not happen, especially with this White House. Yeah, what is your take on legislation right now and regulation? What would you want to see?
I love how you said this White House. Yes, with this White House, it's not happening.
Yeah.
And if it does happen, it'll be interesting to see like how it pans out. But it's so far out of the realm of possibility based on everything that we've seen so far that I'm so pessimistic that it'll happen. So I think that, yes, this will probably be a problem for a different administration to take, but also, and this is going to sound strange, but a younger administration, because again, the more Congress has just like gone on, like me being a kid, child of Nigerian immigrants, watching, American politics from when I was born till now, things have just gotten crazier, but our politicians have gotten older, then therefore, more out of touch with, what the working populace is. Because again, the working populace is like populated by people, like 30 or 25 to 65, And we have politicians like Chuck Grassley, who's like 92. So I think that with a younger administration, younger government, which could even bring different ideas, like you have someone like, Zoran Mamdani, who's like, looking at democratic socialism. And if I'm being honest, I think that democratic socialism can work. It can work in our modern world, especially with like, like the rise of AI. But I also think that there's such a thing as sustainable capitalism. But I think that it can only work when balanced with democratic socialism. So again, these are things that I hope that will come in with a younger administration or a younger government. And that's when I could see that change happening. But
I want to know what did you say sustainable capitalism even looks like in the age of AI?
So when you talked about NFTs, my mind gets drawn to DAOs. So
decentralized Autonomous
organizations. Yeah.
Can you put that on context?
Decentralized, yeah. So my mind gets drawn to DAOs, and I personally, so I have an environmental nonprofit that seeks to kind of integrate some like DAO infrastructure into the way that we operate. And like, like right now, AI is taking jobs, that can be mostly done by computers. Majority of the workforce, works on computers. However, there is an entire environmental landscape that is not being tended to. Like you have, janitorial jobs, sanitation jobs that are looked down upon, by a lot of society because they're also like, not paid well. But I think that one really cool thing that's happened like in the tech sector, and it normally happens like around like, big like financial crises, around like 2008 is when we got Uber. And then, Instagram came out, YouTube was 2005. But one thing that I see is that the companies that tend to be the biggest disruptors are the ones that pay their workforce well. And that allows you to kind of, like steal workers, honestly.
Yeah. So
like, TikTok and YouTube stole workers. They even restructured entire industries like the media industry.
Google, yeah. Like, but then they also came up, there was something about they did the raise, but they were also filling a gap and solving a problem of the time. People were needing to rally around something.
Yeah. People needed to rally around something. And what a lot of these companies did is they gave their workers agency as well. You have time to like rule your day, but also, create. You have time, even like with things like Uber, you don't have to like be like, nailed to a desk all day long. So I find that the companies that work the best or that disrupt industries are the ones that pay their workers well and allow for agency. And, moving into this AI age where human-led is going to start being like, kind of the new standard, I would say, like a new cool standard of being human-led. I think that DAOs and like, things like blockchain and NFT can come into a way, can kind of be integrated into like a sustainable capitalistic system that gives people agency, but also pays them correctly so that they can afford good things.
Because you're tracking the work and you're seeing where the money's going. Yes. Everyone's kind of part of the whole.
Yes.
Is it? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a little more complicated than that.
Yeah,
I'll go into it later. But
what's your 101 version of it?
Again, funnily enough, even in my content, I'm having to find ways to incrementally build up to it. And that's the kind of the way that I like to spread ideas throughout my content. I have to build up through like a few videos to set the foundation. Because again, something as complicated as this is a little hard to explain, but optimistically, y'all, I started this nonprofit a year ago, and already I'm good enough to be able to like explain what we do in one sentence, but I haven't figured out how to integrate the NFT DAO part. But.
So what do you do in one sentence? And I guess how can AI support the environment and sustainability when it's being called out so much for ruining the environment right now?
So City Aesthetica, my nonprofit, we study the link between human behavior, architecture, and infrastructure. And we also look at human beings as receptive infrastructure, the infrastructure that reacts to the built environment. The way that I can see AI coming in later in the future with City Aesthetica is probably doing a lot of the, administrative grunt tasks, like, the paperwork, I don't want to say grant writing because I still believe that the writing itself, is kind of artistic in a certain way. And I want that to be like a human-led thing. But there's like a lot of grunt tasks that like, like middle management does, even like in nonprofit orgs, that can be carried out by AI. So some of these jobs, that are being replaced by AI, like for instance, like Google is, doing this thing where they have people sign like a voluntary layoff list. And like, yeah, you get like a severance check, but people like, who have had to deal with that experience, their kind of jobs, I guess the general trend is that we're seeing that it could be done by AI. So I guess that's how I would probably integrate AI into my I nearly said startup. Technically, it kind of is a startup, but into my nonprofit. But do I want to? It depends on how pessimistic or optimistic I become with AI in the future.
But then as someone who's into climate justice, do you get called out for now talking about AI and using AI?
So the first time that I spoke to my audience about AI, I let them know, we have this, 10-year moratorium that has to go. It has to go. We don't like that. I don't like that. However, the reason why I have had to inject some optimism into my views on AI is because of my fear of aging out. I don't want to age out. I don't want to be technologically illiterate. So unfortunately, this is not going away. And the thing is, being against AI feels like being against the internet in 1995. You're going against something that's in the end, going to bite you in the ass because you refuse to adapt. So we're going to have to adapt. And that's the reason why I'm trying to stress to my audience, adapt, learn it, because it's not going away. But again, environmentally, we really have to focus on that water usage issue. Not just that, but the data centers. Even when we're looking at, data usage with just, cryptocurrency, that's a huge thing. So we're really going to have to restructure in some way, and energy is always going to be like a huge debate.
Well, how do we make sure that people of color and Black folks, LGBT folks, all the other folks don't get left behind in this moment?
You have victim blame and you have system blame. So then you have victim change and then system change. So system, the system normally ends up affecting the individual, and then they become the victim. So I would say it starts from the top down, which is why I would say, VCs or, venture philanthropists, fund Black women, fund, people with different perspectives. You don't want to get to where our government has gotten, where you only have one demographic, in Congress, straight old white men, making that. And when that happens, you kind of get socially to where we are as a society, where there is a disconnect, which leads to revolution and leads to, disorder. If you don't want disorder, allow equal opportunity to be reflected amongst, people in certain fields. So fund Black women. And since we know our communities, we will pass that change along in ways that are effective and that speak best to our audiences. So yeah.
And I think that you even speaking to it is helpful.
Thanks. Thank you for having me. See, that's okay. So yay. This is a first step right here. Thank you, Shira.
With that, you were at my mental health event.
Yeah.
How can we or do you use AI for mental health, or will it ruin mental health? It's your take.
So you know what? This is going to sound so bad because everything that I'm going to say is going to be completely against what mental health professionals say. And this is me as a layperson. I'm a content creator. I'm a former software developer, and this is just my opinion as that. One thing that I guess the mental health community, the traditional mental health community, that's gone through certification and, college and, everything, medical school. They say, do not use AI for, mental health services. Do not use it as a therapist. But the issue is that everyone in the public is finding, oh no, it actually really works very well. So I would say, instead of being so anti-AI because you're kind of scared that it's stealing your market position, or being scared because of the dangers that it does pose, because AI psychosis is a thing, figure out how to work with it. Many people have built AI models and AI engines. I don't know if that's the correct word, specifically for their platforms. You have Grok, you have Meta AI, you have Microsoft Copilot. So if there's a therapist out there who wants to build a therapy specific, a therapist AI thing, go ahead and do it. Figure out the water usage issue, bro. Again, my whole I hate advising to innovate with AI or to adapt. We do have no choice right now. We are stuck between a rock and a hard place, but there are ways to work along with it. The other issue though comes with AI learning and building and then becoming better and outpacing human beings. And that's just something that we're going to have to, figure out, and I feel like legislation comes in there. You can use legislation to place guardrails, on language learning models. So I don't know. There's a lot. We're at the frontier of this giant expanse of the can of worms that may be open. So who knows? Well, it's already been open, but
having you here as a top creator, Rolling Stone, Time, so many more. What do you use as a creator? What are you using right now? What do you want to be on? Yeah, be real. How you're integrating it into your workflow, et cetera.
So I haven't integrated AI into my workflow. I refuse to, because again, I don't want to say that I'm an art purist. I studied theater and film in college. So I'm always going to remain pure to the art. I don't want to adulterate it in any way. I do not want AI to intersect with my script writing for my contents, for my films, for anything. Obviously, I know that there are people who are going to do that. We just had this whole thing with, SAG and Writers Guild, with AI, rising up. So I don't know. As a content creator, I guess the best use that I've had for AI so far is asking it questions. Let's say that I'm writing a script. Okay, here.
Yeah.
So let's say that I'm writing a script and there's a comparison that I want to make.
Yeah.
There was a joke that I was writing in one script the other day where I talked about how I sniffle a lot. And I said that I had a very, I think the joke was Zizekian sinus piping, something like that. So at first the wording was so rocky that it didn't really make much sense to me. And I asked ChatGPT, as a joke, does this make sense? And it told me, no, here are ways that you can, work it. So I worked through the joke for about an hour more, and then I injected it into the script. And, so, it kind of works as a sounding board so far.
And everything else you do manually?
Hell yeah, bro. Are you kidding me? Oh my God,
Good for you. Good for you.
Yeah.
Curious.
Well, I've outsourced to 2 editors, human editors
Good for
right
you.
now. So yeah.
You're employing people.
Oh my God, I have to. Are you kidding me? Or I burn out. And of course, this is something we talked about at your panel. So not trying to do that.
In 5 years, my digital self will be, complete the sentence.
My digital self will fluidly reflect the person that I am. And hopefully it'll be a sort of like persona online, I guess, of me. And that's a vague answer because I don't really have a vague understanding of what's going to happen in the next 5 years. So let's just leave it at that and take what you will from that. Spin whatever meanings you want.
Do you think you would get a virtual, would you do an avatar?
Oh God, no.
Oh, you wouldn't?
No, dude. Oh
Yeah.
God. But then again, like it depends, like
Never know.
ownership rights, and I really don't want to, dude. I don't want to add until this whole water usage thing has been worked out. I don't want to add to that. Even like I keep my AI usage minimal these days. Like even like using it as a sounding board for my scripts. Normally, a lot of my jokes make sense to me. So jokes that don't make sense are like in the minority. So like my AI usage is low, and I would like to keep it that way, but we'll see what works.
How did you get such a grounded sense of self? Because that is also it, where you could trust yourself in that way to not have a sounding board constantly.
I don't know. I like this guy, Carl Jung. Shadow work. It was fuck off. Shadow work. I've also been like bullied my whole life. I was like severely bullied. No, it's in the grand scheme of things, it turned out well. I mean, cause yeah, you get bullied. Like I've been in like cringe compilations online, and like people normally perceive me as cringy. But I'm normally able to ignore it because I've been like so desensitized to like shit talking, and I've just been like so firm in my sense of self that if I see something is working and I see that I'm existing in a way that makes sense to me and it has shown to be effective, I continue.
Are you worried about AI slop, by the way?
Yes.
Okay, what?
Yes.
Yeah, and how do we deal with that?
I will say that super quickly. Have you all seen Mountainhead? Art reflects real life. And in Mountainhead, they basically have the equivalent of Sora that kind of feeds into a bunch of global disquietude, I would say, or global discord. So yeah, watch Mountainhead and see why Sora is a problem.
And can creators help with the AI slop and that chaos?
Yeah, don't integrate it into your content. But again, we're going to see how well this sentiment ages. I remember in 2007, Steve Ballmer spoke negatively about the iPhone. And
That didn't age
well. So again, we're going to see. And, if I'm wrong, I'll accept my wrong. But my concern is the environment right now. I don't want to screw things up. But thanks for having me on.
Period. Thank you. Any other final words?
No other final words. You all, thank you for always letting me be myself. This is fun. Yeah. Check out City Aesthetica. We're doing some super cool things. Our proof of concept project is the micro green space project in New York City, which seems to be a tad overregulated. So we may have to build other places later on down the line. But that's where we are right now.
Come to LA, I'll help you.
LA is overregulated as well. Looking climate-wise, y'all are sinking into the ocean. So is New York. So we're looking in the Midwest and in Africa, if I'm being so honest. So yeah. But
you rock. I so appreciate you.
Thank you.
Hugs. Thank you for just being yourself and for everything that you contribute.
Thank you for centralizing mental health as a huge thing because it matters.
You can follow Nimay on social media and check out her work. All those links are in the show notes. And if you enjoyed this episode, you know what to do. Subscribe, rate, share it. Leave a comment and review. It helps me keep growing the show independently. Thanks again to Puff Media for making this whole thing happen. It really means a lot. puffmedia.co. And of course, my series sponsor, Hivelighter. Again, you can check them out and read all the links that we cover in this show and previous shows at hivelighter.ai. Again, all the links to everything I'm referencing in the show notes. We've got so much more coming your way, so I'll see you next time on the AI Download.